Hi, before we find out what happens next, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It takes a second and really help us grow. Out of the story.
The call from Dr. Morrison's office came 3 days before my scheduled surgery. Ms. Brennan, I'm afraid we have a problem with your payment authorization. The deposit hasn't cleared, and we can't move forward without confirmed funding. I sat down slowly at my kitchen table, phone pressed against my ear. That's not possible. My father set up the payment weeks ago. He said everything was confirmed. According to our records, the payment was canceled yesterday. We've tried reaching the account holder, Keith Brennan, but haven't received a response. Without the deposit, we'll need to reschedule your surgery. Reschedule? For when? Our next available opening is in 4 months. 4 more months of pain that made it difficult to stand for more than 20 minutes. 4 more months of skipping social events because sitting in restaurant chairs was agony. 4 more months of my spine slowly getting worse because I couldn't afford the corrective surgery that would finally fix the scoliosis that had plagued me since adolescence. There must be some mistake, I said. Let me call my father. I'll have him contact you directly. I tried calling Keith 3 times. Voicemail. I texted, Dad, urgent. Dr. Morrison's office says my surgery payment was canceled. Please call me. He didn't call back for 6 hours. When he finally did, I was at work, trying to focus on spreadsheets while my back screamed in protest from sitting too long. Alexis, honey, I'm sorry. I should have called you sooner. What happened to the surgery payment? Dr. Morrison's office says they have to reschedule. I know, I canceled it. His voice was strained, guilty. Something came up, and I couldn't make the payment work right now. My hand tightened on the phone. Something came up. Dad, we planned this 6 months ago. You promised you'd help me pay for it. I've been waiting. I know, and I'm sorry. But Yvonne needs surgery too, and her situation is urgent. Yvonne, his wife of 8 months, the woman who'd swept into his life a year after my mother died and somehow convinced him to marry her after knowing her for 4 months. What kind of surgery does Yvonne need? Silence on the other end, just long enough to tell me the truth before he said it. Cosmetic surgery. She's been very unhappy with her body after her divorce, and this is important for her self-esteem. The doctor can only fit her in next week, and I had to make a choice. You had to make a choice between my medically necessary spinal surgery and your wife's elective plastic surgery, and you chose plastic surgery? It's not that simple, Alexis. Yvonne has been through a lot. Her ex-husband destroyed her confidence, and she needs this to feel like herself again. You're young. You can wait a few more months. I've already waited 6 months. I've been in pain for years, Dad. This surgery was supposed to fix my spine before the curvature gets worse. Dr. Morrison said if I wait too long, I might need more extensive surgery. 4 months isn't that long, and I promise I'll have the money by then. But right now, Yvonne needs me to be supportive. She's my wife, and I have to put her first. I closed my eyes, feeling something crack inside me that had nothing to do with my spine. You promised me, Dad. When Mom was dying, you promised you'd always take care of me. You said I'd never have to worry about medical bills, that you'd make sure I got the treatment I needed. And I will, just not right now. I'm sorry, Alexis, but my decision is made. I'll call Dr. Morrison's office and explain that we'll reschedule for later in the year. Don't bother. I'll handle it myself. I hung up before he could respond, then sat at my desk, trying to breathe around the anger and betrayal flooding my chest. My father had canceled my $80,000 spinal surgery 3 days before the scheduled date to pay for his new wife's plastic surgery. My father, who'd promised to take care of me, who'd said family came first, who'd held my hand through every doctor's appointment and specialist consultation for the past year while we planned this surgery. He'd chosen Yvonne's vanity over my health. Rachel Kim found me in the bathroom 10 minutes later, crying so hard I couldn't catch my breath. What happened? Is it the surgery? I told her everything. The canceled payment, my father's call, Yvonne's cosmetic surgery. Rachel's face went from concern to furious in seconds. He chose tummy tuck over your spine? That's insane. That's cruel. He doesn't see it that way. He sees it as supporting his wife. His wife of 8 months who he barely knows? Over his daughter who's been suffering for years? Rachel pulled out her phone. We're fixing this. I'm calling everyone we know. We're starting a fundraiser, a GoFundMe, whatever it takes. You're getting that surgery. Rachel, it's $80,000. I don't care if it's 800,000. Your father is being manipulated by that woman, and we're not letting her win. She squeezed my hand. You're getting your surgery, Alexis. With or without Keith. 6 months earlier, I'd sat in Dr. Morrison's office listening to her explain my options. Your scoliosis has progressed to the point where conservative treatment isn't effective anymore. The curvature is putting pressure on your organs and causing chronic pain. I recommend spinal fusion surgery to correct the curve and stabilize your spine. How much does that cost? With the hospital stay, surgeon fees, anesthesia, and follow-up care, you're looking at approximately $80,000. Do you have insurance? I have insurance through my job, but it only covers 60% of the procedure. I'd still owe $32,000 out of pocket. $32,000 I didn't have. Dr. Morrison had looked sympathetic. There are payment plans available, medical financing options. I'll talk to my father, I'd said. He's helped me with medical costs before. Keith had been horrified when I explained the situation over dinner at his house that night. $80,000 for surgery? That's criminal. It's what it costs, and insurance won't cover all of it. How much do you need? $32,000. But Dad, that's a lot of money. I can look into financing. Absolutely not. You're not going into debt for medical care you need. He'd grabbed my hand across the table. Your mother would kill me if I let you suffer because of money. I'll cover it. We'll schedule the surgery, and I'll make sure it's paid for. I'd cried with relief. Are you sure? That's a huge amount. You're my daughter. Of course I'm sure. We'll get you healthy again, just like your mom would have wanted. That had been 6 months ago, before Yvonne. I'd met Yvonne for the first time 2 months after that conversation. Keith had been acting strange, distracted, secretive, oddly giddy like a teenager. Then he'd called me for coffee and introduced me to a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Alexis, this is Yvonne. We've been seeing each other for a few months, and I wanted you two to meet. Yvonne had been charming that first meeting. Interested in my work, asking about my interests, complimenting my outfit. But there was something in her eyes when she looked at Keith, something calculating that made me uneasy. Your father tells me you're having surgery soon, she'd said. That must be scary. It's necessary. I've been dealing with back pain for years. Oh, I understand chronic pain. My divorce was so stressful I developed all sorts of health issues. But I'm focusing on self-care now, taking control of my body and my life. She'd squeezed Keith's hand. Your father has been so supportive. 2 months later, they were engaged. 1 month after that, married in a small ceremony I'd attended, feeling like I was watching a car crash in slow motion. Keith had seemed happy, happier than I'd seen him since Mom died 3 years ago. Yvonne had moved into the house I'd grown up in, slowly replacing Mom's photos with her own decorations, painting over Mom's favorite colors, erasing my mother from the home she'd loved. And now Yvonne had erased my surgery too. Rachel's voice brought me back to the present. We've got $1,200 pledged already from people at work. I'm reaching out to your mom's old friends, people from her church group. They'll want to help. This is humiliating. What's humiliating is your father choosing that woman's vanity over your health, taking donations from people who actually care about you. That's called community. My phone buzzed. Text from Keith. Please don't be angry. I'll make this right. I just need time. I deleted it without responding. Time was the one thing I didn't have. Every month I waited, my spine got worse. Every week I delayed surgery, I risked needing a more extensive and expensive procedure. But more than that, something had broken between me and my father that I wasn't sure could be repaired. He'd promised to take care of me, and the moment Yvonne asked for something, he'd abandoned that promise without hesitation. That told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in his priorities now. The GoFundMe campaign Rachel launched raised $18,000 in 2 weeks. People I barely knew donated. Co-workers, friends of my mother's from her book club, neighbors from the street I'd grown up on. Each donation came with messages that made me cry. Your mother was the kindest person I knew. Let me help her daughter. Sarah would have wanted this for you. We've got your back. Nobody should suffer because of someone else's selfishness. Get well soon. Rachel drove me to the bank to open a medical savings account, and I watched the numbers climb slowly toward what I needed. 18,000. Still 14,000 short of what insurance wouldn't cover. Then my aunt called, my mother's sister, who I hadn't spoken to in months. "Alexis, I heard about what happened with your father. I'm so sorry, honey. News travels fast. Your cousin saw the GoFundMe and called me. I didn't know things had gotten this bad between you and Keith." She paused. "I want to help. Your mother left you something in her will. A small investment account she'd been building since you were born. It was supposed to go to you when you turned 30, but I'm the executor, and given the circumstances, I think we can access it early. Mom left me money? $22,000. She wanted you to have a safety net, something that would help you if you ever needed it. I'd say a necessary medical surgery qualifies." Her voice softened. "Sarah loved you so much, Alexis. She'd want this money to help you get better." I cried so hard I couldn't speak for a full minute. When I finally composed myself, I asked, "Can we access it soon?" "I'll start the paperwork tomorrow. You should have the money within 2 weeks. 18,000 from the fundraiser, 22,000 from my mother's account. That was exactly $40,000. Enough to cover what insurance wouldn't pay, enough to get my surgery rescheduled. I called Dr. Morrison's office immediately. "I have the funds. Can we reschedule?" "Let me check availability. I have an opening in 6 weeks. Would that work?" "Perfect. I'll get you the deposit by the end of this week." When Rachel heard the news, she hugged me so hard my ribs hurt. "Your mom came through for you. Even after she's gone, she's still protecting you. Unlike my father." Speaking of Keith, have you heard from him at all? He's called twice, left voicemails asking me to give Yvonne a chance, saying she's not as bad as I think. I deleted them both. Good. You don't owe him anything right now. But curiosity got the better of me a week later when I ran into Keith's neighbor at the grocery store. Mrs. Patterson had known my family for 20 years, had been at my mother's funeral, had brought casseroles to the house after Sarah died. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me. "Alexis, dear, how are you feeling?" "Better. My surgery is rescheduled." "Oh, I'm so glad. Your father mentioned it had been postponed, but he didn't say why." She lowered her voice. "Is it true he used the surgery money to pay for Yvonne's plastic surgery?" "How did you know that?" "Yvonne's been talking about it. She had the procedures done last week. Tummy tuck, breast augmentation, liposuction. She posted photos on social media about her transformation journey and how grateful she was that Keith supported her self-care." My hands tightened on my grocery cart. "She posted about it? I probably shouldn't have said anything. But Alexis, people are talking. Everyone who knew your mother is horrified at what Keith did." She hesitated. "There's something else. Yvonne's been pushing Keith to cut ties with people who don't support their marriage. She made him stop going to the grief support group he attended after Sarah died. She threw out all of Sarah's belongings that Keith had kept. I've tried to visit, but she's always there, and she makes it clear I'm not welcome. She's isolating him. That's what it looks like to me. Keith seems like a different person, anxious, defensive. He defends every decision she makes, even when they don't make sense." Mrs. Patterson squeezed my arm. "I'm worried about him, but I'm more worried about you. Are you okay?" "I will be. My mom left me money. I'm getting my surgery without his help. Sarah always thought ahead. She knew you might need protection, even from your own father." She smiled sadly. I'm glad she was right. That night, I looked up Yvonne's social media for the first time. Her profile was public, filled with selfies and posts about her new life. There it was. Photos from 4 days ago, Yvonne in a hospital gown with the caption, "Starting my transformation journey. So grateful to my amazing husband for supporting my self-care." Sometimes you have to put yourself first. 147 likes. Comments praising her bravery, congratulating her on prioritizing herself. Not a single mention of whose medical care she'd displaced to fund her vanity. I closed the app, feeling sick. My father had enabled this. He'd let Yvonne manipulate him into choosing her cosmetic surgery over my necessary medical procedure, and she was parading it on social media like a victory. Rachel found me staring at my phone. "You okay?" "No, but I will be." I showed her Yvonne's posts. She's proud of what she did. She's a narcissist, and your father is too blinded by whatever spell she's cast to see it. What happens when the spell breaks? That's his problem. Your problem is getting healthy. Everything else is secondary. She was right. I couldn't fix my father's terrible decisions. I could only fix my own life. And in 6 weeks, that's exactly what I'd do. 4 weeks before my surgery, Keith called at midnight. "Alexis, I need your help. Something's wrong with Yvonne." I'd been asleep, and his panicked voice pulled me instantly awake. "What happened?" "Her surgery. There are complications. Infection at one of the incision sites. She's in the hospital, and they're saying she needs emergency surgery to clean it out. The insurance won't cover it because it's related to cosmetic procedures, and I don't have the money." "Stop. Why are you calling me?" "You're my daughter. I hoped you might..." "Might what? Give you money for Yvonne's corrective surgery after you canceled mine to pay for her initial one?" Silence. Then quietly, "I know I hurt you. I know I made the wrong choice. But she's in pain, Alexis. She's scared. The doctor says if we don't treat the infection aggressively, it could become septic." "That's terrible. But it's not my problem." "How can you say that? She's family. She's your family. The woman you chose over me. The woman whose vanity you prioritized over my health." My hands were shaking. "You want me to help pay for surgery to fix the complications from the surgery you took my money to fund? Are you serious right now?" "I don't have anyone else to ask. The corrective surgery is $30,000. I've already spent everything I had on her original surgery." "Yes, I know. And now you're dealing with the consequences of that choice." I took a breath. "I'm sorry Yvonne is in pain. But you made your choice when you canceled my surgery. You chose her. Now you get to handle her problems without me." "Alexis, please. No, get a loan. Ask her family. Figure it out. But don't call me asking for money you took from me in the first place." I hung up and turned off my phone. Rachel came over the next morning with coffee and found me still awake, staring at the ceiling. "Keith called. Yvonne's surgery went wrong. She has an infection. And let me guess, he wants you to pay for it. $30,000. He actually asked me for money. The audacity." Rachel sat down on the edge of my bed. "What did you tell him?" "That it's not my problem. That he made his choice." I sat up. Am I being cruel? She's in the hospital with an infection. An infection caused by elective surgery she manipulated your father into funding. An infection that wouldn't exist if she hadn't convinced him to cancel your medically necessary procedure. Rachel's voice was firm. "You're not being cruel. You're protecting yourself from people who've already shown they'll sacrifice your well-being for their own wants." My phone, turned back on, buzzed with a text. "Keith, please reconsider. Yvonne is asking for you." "Yvonne is asking for me?" Another text. "She wants to apologize. She realizes she was wrong." Now she realizes? Rachel looked at the message over my shoulder. "Only after her surgery went bad and she needs something. Convenient timing. I should at least talk to her, right? Maybe she is genuinely sorry." "Alexis, stop. You don't owe her anything. She took your surgery money. She posted on social media about how grateful she was. She isolated your father from everyone who cared about him. And now that she's suffering consequences, suddenly she wants to apologize?" Rachel shook her head. "That's not remorse. That's manipulation." She was right. I knew she was right. But part of me, the part that had been raised to be kind, to give people second chances, the part that was still my mother's daughter, wanted to believe people could change. I texted back, "I hope Yvonne recovers, but I can't help financially. I barely have enough for my own surgery." Keith's response came immediately. "Can we at least meet? Talk in person? I miss you." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "After my surgery. If you want to be there, you're welcome to come. But I need to focus on my own health right now." No response. 3 days later, Mrs. Patterson called. "I thought you should know. Keith took out a loan against the house to pay for Yvonne's corrective surgery. He's been telling neighbors he had no choice, that insurance wouldn't cover it. He mortgaged Mom's house. The house you grew up in. The house Sarah loved." Mrs. Patterson sounded sad. "He's in over his head, Alexis. And I don't think he even realizes how much Yvonne has cost him. How is Yvonne? Out of the hospital. But according to what I've heard, the results of her original surgery are not what she hoped. The infection caused scarring. She's talking about needing more corrective procedures. More surgeries meant more money. Money Keith didn't have. Money he'd apparently borrow against his own home to provide. Thanks for letting me know, Mrs. Patterson. Alexis, your surgery is soon, right? 3 weeks. I'll be praying for you. Your mother would be so proud of how you've handled this. After she hung up, I sat with Rachel in my apartment, trying to process everything. He mortgaged the house Mom loved to fix Yvonne's botched plastic surgery, which wouldn't have been botched if she hadn't had unnecessary surgery in the first place. This is going to destroy him financially. Even if Yvonne recovers completely, he'll be paying off that loan for years. That's what happens when you make terrible choices for terrible reasons. Rachel looked at me seriously. You're allowed to feel bad for him. He's your father. But don't let feeling bad turn into taking responsibility for fixing his mistakes. I won't. I can't. I need to focus on getting through my own surgery. Which is happening in 3 weeks because your mother loved you enough to plan ahead, and because people who actually care about you stepped up. Keith could have been part of that. He chose not to be. She was right. Keith had made his choices. Now, he'd have to live with them. And I'd have to figure out if I could ever forgive him for putting Yvonne's vanity above my health. The morning of my surgery, Rachel drove me to the hospital at dawn. Keith was waiting in the lobby. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in weeks, lost weight, aged 10 years in the 2 months since I'd last seen him. He stood when he saw me, took a step forward, then stopped when he saw my expression. Alexis, I'm glad I made it. What are you doing here? I'm your father. I wanted to be here for your surgery. Now you want to be here? Where were you 6 weeks ago when the surgery was originally scheduled? Oh, right, you were supporting Yvonne through her surgery. Rachel stepped between us. Keith, maybe this isn't the time. Please, I just want to be here. I won't get in the way. He looked at me with such desperate sadness that something cracked in my chest despite everything. I know I failed you. I know I chose wrong. But you're still my daughter, and I love you. Can I please just be here while you have surgery? I wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him he'd lost the right to play concerned father when he canceled my surgery for his wife's vanity project. But I was tired of being angry. Tired of carrying the weight of his betrayal, and I needed to focus on getting through the next few hours. You can stay, but you sit in the waiting room, and you don't cause problems. Thank you. Thank you, Alexis. Rachel squeezed my hand as we walked toward the pre-op area. You okay with him being here? No, but he's still my dad, and if something goes wrong... I didn't finish the sentence. The surgery took 6 hours. 6 hours of Rachel and Keith sitting in the same waiting room, apparently not speaking to each other. 6 hours of doctors straightening my spine, fusing vertebrae, correcting years of progressive curvature. When I woke up in recovery, my back hurt in a completely different way than it had before. Surgical pain instead of the chronic ache I'd lived with for so long. Dr. Morrison's face swam into view. The surgery went perfectly. We corrected the curvature completely. You'll need physical therapy, but you should have full mobility and significantly reduced pain once you're healed. I cried with relief. Rachel was allowed in first. She held my hand while I cried, didn't say anything about the pain or the fear or the relief flooding through me. Just sat with me while I processed that it was finally over, that I'd made it through despite everything. Then Keith appeared in the doorway, and Rachel's expression hardened. I should give you 2 a minute, she said, but I grabbed her hand. Stay. Keith approached my bed slowly, like he was afraid I might tell him to leave. How are you feeling? Sore. But the doctor says the surgery went well. I'm so glad. I was so worried. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, Alexis. I'm so sorry for everything. I should have been there for you from the beginning. I should have kept my promise. I chose wrong, and I've regretted it every day since. Is Yvonne okay? He looked surprised by the question. She's recovering. The infection cleared up, but the scarring from the complications means the results aren't what she hoped for. She's angry about it. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. He sat down in the chair by my bed, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I've been a fool. Yvonne. She's not who I thought she was. The way she's been acting since her surgery didn't go perfectly. It's like I'm seeing her clearly for the first time. What do you mean? She blamed me for the infection. Said I should have researched her surgeon better, that I should have been more supportive during her recovery. When I told her I was worried about you, about your surgery, she said you were being dramatic, and that you'd be fine. He rubbed his face. I don't know how I didn't see it before. She's been manipulating me since we met, isolating me from everyone, making me choose her over everyone else. And I let her. Yes, you did. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, what I threw away, what I cost you, and I'm sorry. I was quiet for a long moment, looking at my father, this man who'd raised me, who'd held me when my mother died, who'd promised to always take care of me and then broken that promise the first time someone else demanded his attention. I don't forgive you yet, I said finally. Maybe someday, but right now I'm just focused on getting better, on healing from the surgery you should have paid for in the first place. He nodded, tears in his eyes. That's fair. That's more than fair. He stood to leave, then paused. Your mother would be proud of you, for fighting for yourself, for getting the surgery despite everything. She always said you were stronger than you knew. After he left, Rachel raised an eyebrow. How do you feel? Tired, sad, relieved. I shifted carefully, testing my new spine, feeling the difference already. He says he sees what Yvonne is now, but it took her surgery going wrong for him to notice. It took consequences for him. Some people only learn through pain. Yeah, I just wish his learning experience hadn't cost me so much. But you made it through. You got your surgery. You're going to heal and be better, and you did it without his help. She smiled. Your mom made sure of that. I thought about my mother, about the investment account she'd built quietly over years, about her planning ahead to protect me even after she was gone, about the community of people who donated to my fundraiser, who'd shown up when my father didn't. Mom always said family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when you need them. She was right, Rachel said, and we showed up. All of us. She had. They all had. Everyone except the one person who'd promised to be there, who'd made that promise and then broken it the moment someone else wanted something. But I'd survived anyway. I'd found another way. And that, more than anything, proved I was going to be okay. 3 months after surgery, I went to physical therapy 3 times a week and could stand without pain for the first time in 5 years. The recovery was harder than I'd expected. Weeks of limited mobility, learning to move differently, rebuilding strength. But every day I felt better, stronger, more like a person whose body worked the way it was supposed to. Keith called every week. I answered about half the time. How's therapy going? Good. I can walk 2 miles now without stopping. That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. Proud. Like he'd had anything to do with my recovery, like his support had gotten me through this instead of my mother's foresight and my friend's loyalty. How's Yvonne? We're having problems. She wants more surgeries to fix the scarring. I told her we can't afford it. She's not taking it well. I'm sorry. I mortgaged the house to pay for her last surgery. The house your mother and I bought, the house you grew up in. I don't know if I can make the payments if I have to pay for more procedures. He waited for me to offer help. I didn't. That sounds difficult, I said instead. Alexis, I know I don't have the right to ask, but... You're right, you don't. Silence. Then, quietly, fair enough. We talked for a few more minutes about surface things, weather, his work, my job. Then he said he had to go, and I hung up feeling exhausted by the careful distance between us. Rachel came over that evening with takeout. You talked to Keith today. How did you know? You have that look, the one you get when you're trying to figure out how to feel about him. He's in trouble. Yvonne wants more surgeries he can't afford. He mortgaged the house, and he wants you to feel bad enough to help. Maybe. I don't know. I pushed rice around my plate. Part of me still sees him as my dad, the person who took care of me growing up. But that person also chose his wife's vanity over my health. How do I reconcile those two versions? You don't. You accept that people can be both things, The parent who loved you and the person who failed you catastrophically. You don't have to forgive him to acknowledge both are true. When did you get so wise? Around the time I watched my best friend get her spine fixed without her father's help because he gave the money to his manipulative wife. She smiled. You're doing great, by the way. The recovery, the boundaries with Keith, all of it. You're handling this better than most people would. I don't feel like I'm handling it well. I feel angry and sad and guilty all at once. That's allowed. All of those feelings can coexist. Mrs. Patterson called the next week. I thought you should know, Keith and Yvonne are getting divorced. What happened? She left him, found a new man with more money, apparently. Moved out 3 days ago and took anything of value that wasn't nailed down. Mrs. Patterson sighed. Keith is devastated. He finally sees what everyone else saw all along, that she was using him. Is he okay? Physically, yes. Emotionally, he's a mess. He's been asking about you, wondering if you'd be willing to talk to him. I talk to him every week. I mean really talk, not surface conversation. He wants to apologize properly, explain everything, try to rebuild your relationship. I don't know if I'm ready for that. That's understandable, dear. Just thought you should know he's ready when you are. I thought about it for 3 days before calling Keith back. Mrs. Patterson told me about Yvonne. Yeah. His voice was hollow. She left me for someone else. Someone with a bigger house, more money, fewer complications. I'm sorry. Don't be. You were right about her. Everyone was right about her. I was just too stupid to see it. You weren't stupid. You were lonely and grieving, and she took advantage of that. That doesn't excuse what I did to you. Canceling your surgery, choosing her over you, being blind to her manipulation. He took a shaky breath. I lost everything, Alexis. The woman I thought I loved, a huge amount of money, my relationship with you. And for what? So she could have plastic surgery that didn't even work out? What do you need from me right now, Dad? I need you to know how sorry I am, how much I regret every choice I made, and I need to know if there's any chance you can forgive me someday. I looked at the photo of my mother on my shelf, at her smile that had always been patient and kind, even when she was frustrated. I don't know yet, I said honestly, but I'm willing to try, slowly. Slowly is more than I deserve. Yeah, it is. But Mom always said people deserve chances to be better, even after they've been terrible. So we'll start slowly, and we'll see. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you. 1 year after my surgery, I ran my first 5K. Rachel ran beside me, cheering when I crossed the finish line without stopping once. My back was strong, my spine straight, my body finally working the way it should have always worked. Dr. Morrison had declared me fully healed at my last checkup. You've made remarkable progress. No limitations, no restrictions. You're cleared for normal activities. Normal activities. Like running, dancing, standing at concerts, sitting through movies without constant pain. Things I'd taken for granted before scoliosis had slowly stolen them away. Keith was waiting at the finish line with a bouquet of flowers. We'd been rebuilding our relationship slowly over the past year. Coffee once a month, phone calls once a week, careful conversations that didn't push too hard or demand too much. It wasn't the relationship we'd had before, but it was something. You did it, he said, handing me the flowers. Your mom would be so proud. Mom would be proud I survived you choosing your wife's plastic surgery over my medical care? He winced, but didn't argue. Yes, she would. Because Sarah always said you were a survivor, that you'd get through anything life threw at you, even your own father's terrible decisions. We walked to a nearby cafe, and Keith bought coffee while I stretched muscles that were delightfully sore from running, not aching from spinal problems. Yvonne got remarried, Keith said when we sat down. Mrs. Patterson told me. Quick wedding, already posting photos on social media with her new husband. How do you feel about that? Relieved, mostly. That it wasn't just me she was using, that she's someone else's problem now. He looked at me seriously. I've been in therapy, working on understanding why I was so easy to manipulate, why I chose her lies over your truth. And I was desperate not to be alone. After your mom died, I was so lonely I couldn't think straight. Yvonne was attractive and available and interested in me, and I convinced myself that was enough. I ignored every red flag because I didn't want to be by myself. He stirred his coffee. That doesn't excuse what I did, but it explains it. I'm glad you're working on it. I sold the house. I looked up sharply. Mom's house? I couldn't afford the mortgage anymore. Between what I paid for Yvonne's surgeries and the loan I took out, I was underwater. So I sold it, paid off the debts, and moved into a smaller place. He smiled sadly. Your mom always said houses are just buildings. It's the people inside that matter. She did say that. I kept some things for you. Photos, some of your mom's jewelry, things I thought you might want. Thank you. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and I realized something had shifted. I wasn't angry anymore, wasn't bitter or resentful or hurt. I'd moved past it somehow, moved into a space where Keith was just my flawed father who'd made terrible choices and was trying to do better. Are we okay? Keith asked quietly. We're getting there, slowly. Slowly works. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, Alexis, for everything. I know I've said it before, but I'll keep saying it as long as you need to hear it. I know you're sorry, and I'm working on forgiving you. But Dad, if you ever date anyone else, I'm vetting them first. He laughed, and it sounded genuine for the first time in months. Deal. Rachel joined us 20 minutes later, and we celebrated my 5K finish with coffee and pastries. Keith asked about her work, complimented her new haircut, acted like a person instead of the shell he'd been for the past year. Walking to my car later, Rachel bumped my shoulder. You're doing okay with him. We're figuring it out. It'll never be what it was before, but maybe it can be something new. Your mom would be proud of that too, of you being willing to rebuild instead of just burning bridges. I thought about my mother, about her investment account that had saved me, about her love that had protected me even after her death, about her wisdom that still guided me years later. Mom always said forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing not to let other people's mistakes define your future. She was a smart woman. Yeah, she was. I drove home to my apartment, to my life that I'd rebuilt without my father's help, to my body that worked properly because I'd found another way when he failed me. Keith had made terrible choices. He'd prioritized Yvonne's vanity over my health, and that had cost him everything. His marriage, his home, his relationship with me, his self-respect. But he was trying now. Really trying. And Mom had always believed in second chances for people who genuinely wanted to change, so I'd give him one, slowly, carefully, with clear boundaries. Because at the end of the day, he was still my father. And I was still my mother's daughter, strong enough to survive betrayal, wise enough to protect myself, and kind enough to offer grace when it was earned.